Hi, Bruma.
Hey, how are you, Fiona?
Yeah, good, thanks. So can you please tell me the difference between the equity and the borrowing capacity?
So equity in a property and the borrowing capacity.
Yes.
Okay, all right. That's a good question, because lots of times I get asked this question by clients. Sometimes they say, especially people who've got plenty of equity, but they don't, they're either retired or they're not earning too much. So they say, oh, by the way, I've got so much equity in the property, why can't I borrow this much money? So that's a very good question. I'd like to actually elaborate on that. So there are two, remember when we first started this whole thing, I told you that there are two pillars of a home loan.
Mm-hmm, yep.
One is your borrowing capacity, and the other one is your funds to complete or your equity in the property.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same thing. So this morning also actually we were talking to a client, and she said, oh, but I have 80,000 sitting in the offset, so why can't I, she was trying to work out the loan to value ratio. She said, why can't I do that? So which is there are a couple of sort of myths and misunderstandings, so I want to elaborate on that. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so one is your equity, which is your loan to value ratio. So let's say your property value is 100 and your loan is only 50 right now. Yeah.
Yep.
This is V, this is loan. So how much will be your equity, do you know? Because we can only go up to 80%. So in lending term, if you sell the property, your equity is 50.
Yeah.
Now that's another thing which people normally, brokers, when I train them, they say, oh, then it should be 50, the equity.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's, you know why? Because we can only do 80%, remember, without the LMI. So that means if we can fetch $80 from here, so 80 minus 50 is $30, right? Yeah? Yeah, you got it? So 80 minus 50 is 30, which means your equity is $30.
Okay.
Meaning you can release this as a cash out.
Okay.
As a cash out. But this has got nothing to do with the borrowing capacity. So borrowing capacity is totally different from here. Yeah, borrowing capacity is, remember, what was that? Cash in and cash out.
Yeah.
Yeah, simple. So cash in and cash out, which is your income and, rental and Centrelink, whatever. And this one is your repayments for all sorts and your living expenses.
Okay.
So when people ask you that I need some cash out from my property, that means they're talking about this equity release.
Yep.
But that's got nothing to do with the borrowing capacity. If someone asks you, oh, by the way, I've got like 5 million sitting in my equity, why can't I borrow another 100,000? But let's say they're retired or they're not working or whatever. I mean, we can still take the rental income into the equation, but most of the banks, they don't want to rely upon just the rental income for borrowing capacity. Okay? So just make sure that you don't mix these two, equity and borrowing capacity.
Okay.
Equity is simply loan to value ratio, which means that if this is your loan, this is your value, how much can you release?
Yeah.
And that also depends upon borrowing capacity. That's very important. If let's say they have that, but they can't even borrow this extra, that means we still cannot do the loan. So there's a no there. So make sure that you understand these aspects very clearly before you do the loan. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
Any questions?
That's it.
It's clear. Yeah.
Thanks.
Simple. No worries.